Hello and welcome back to the Panathinaikos International Fans Podcast. It's your American crew here with just the two of us this time. It's Antoni and Alex. Alex, how are you feeling today, dude?
Bame, let's
That's
go.
right. That's right, huh?
Doing great.
What a win, huh?
Good stuff.
What a win, man. What a win. We're recording this mere hours after Panathinaikos advanced in the cup. We got a lot to talk about, mainly FC related today. But before we get into today's match, Alex and I are gonna cover a little bit of the game from this past Saturday where we played Lamia. That game was a 2-2 draw. A little bit of mixed feelings there amongst the fan base, especially after what we saw in the first leg against PAOK. Alex, I know you caught that game, that 2-2 against Lamia. How'd you see the game? How'd you see kind of how we went about it? What are your main takeaways from the game?
It was obviously a weird one because it was a really unconventional game in the sense that obviously they had the red in about the 40th minute, something that you don't expect. We had a couple of injuries in the first half, 13th and 23rd minute, obviously not something you expect either. So, unconventional game, not didn't go by the playbook for either team. So it was a weird one. But overall, it was a letdown. Not just the result, but I think the performance in general. The first half wasn't that bad. I think we controlled the game in the first half. We did go down, but I wasn't super disappointed with the second half. It was more so, sorry, I wasn't disappointed with the first half that much. It was more so the second half that disappointed me. And I could get a little more into that, but let me hear what you have to say also.
Yeah, I kind of echo the same things that you're mentioning, Alex. The result was definitely a letdown. I mean, I kind of probably had the same mentality that Terim might have had going into it. I'm not gonna lie, where I thought, we just came off that big performance against PAOK and Tumba. We're playing at home. I thought we were gonna get the win against Lamia, and in ways it looks like we kind of underestimated them a little bit. Um, I agree. First half was um, you know, not as bad, I would say, I guess, as the second half was, because the second half you kind of expect a little more intensity. In some ways, we did see some of that intensity, but in other ways, we kind of lacked again those defensive lapses. Um, One thing that kind of stood out to me was we copped that first goal. I mean, maybe it was Mladenovic. Somebody was ball watching, and Carlitos just goes through. Do you remember who it was that was ball watching?
Well, I think it was a couple players. The way I remember it is we lost the ball on our right side. It
Okay.
was I think Akaidin who lost the ball originally, or maybe it was Kotsiras because it was on the right side. Anyway, someone lost the ball on the right side, and then Carlitos took it and he kind of just slalomed through a couple defenders, and it was kind of just a comedy of errors, nothing like too egregious, but there were a lot of lazy tackles. Like if you watch the replay, at least two of our defenders were just like kind of lunging in lazy tackles. Um, a couple guys just like you said, ball watching. I don't remember specifically who, but at least one or two guys. All in all, Carlitos took it and went by like four or five guys, which the guy's almost 35 years old. Like I know he's in good form. He still got it. So I'm not saying, I'm not bashing him. I'm bashing our defense in the sense that like this is not a guy who should be weaving and skipping through our defense four or five guys. Like that's just unacceptable. So I don't even point fingers at one person. Yeah, maybe someone is more to blame than the others in the defense, but like he really just kind of showed up for all our defense. So I don't know. It was just lazy defending, bad defending. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I remember him just like you said, he just slalomed through the defense, and it was one of those moments where you think, okay, one of these guys is gonna get the ball like that. You don't feel threatened by it, and next thing you know, you see the ball roll in the far post in the back of the net, and you're like, oh, he actually got that off.
He did
And
everything right with a finish too. Like, sorry to
yeah,
interrupt, but he very smart finish in the sense that it wasn't a strong shot, but he hit it across the goalie's body.
right.
Makes it really difficult for the goalie to save. Goalie's going one way, the ball's going the other way. So, you got to give credit to Carlitos. I'm not taking anything away from him, but like I said, he can't be going through 4 or 5 of our guys.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, no, you're good. No, exactly. Like his finish was incredible. Like it shouldn't, like to your point, because I kind of get what you're saying. It shouldn't have even gotten to that point. Somebody should
Exactly.
have stuck a foot out and that should have been it. I'm Carlitos. We know him. He played for us a couple years ago. Talented player, can dribble the ball, but I mean, with that many bodies in the box, somebody should have set foot. So that was disappointing. I liked our reaction though. I mean, we almost immediately scored the equalizer.
Yeah.
Um, I guess in ways it kind of shows where the team is at mentality wise. We'll kind of get into it a little bit later as well, where they'll react or they'll respond till the very end. And so we got that goal. We made it 1-1, and that's where we kind of came out into the second half, and we were a little more intense. Starting off, I think it was like the first 20 minutes or so. We're piling on pressure, but we're not able to crack the nut. We're not able to get past it and get that ball behind the line. And then as we saw, I think they made it 2-1 again, right? Or did we make it 2-1 and then they tied it?
We made it 2-1 with a Yeremayev first time shot from Vayanidis. That was, I think,
Right,
probably in this like around 60th or 65th minute, maybe something like that.
right.
And then they tied it, obviously. But yeah, I see the problems I have with the second half is so I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, but I'm gonna point a finger at Terim, and I'm not anti Terim all of a sudden. I just think we need to call out what we see, or at least what I see. So I think we came out and our attack was very predictable, and it was immediately obvious we were playing heavily on the wings, which is not something dissimilar to Terim ball, but it was like to the extreme. And obviously, we had the majority of possession and all this, but it was very heavy on the wings to the point where the commentator on my feed said it within 2 minutes of the start half of the half starting. In the 47th minute, he already pointed it out, and he was absolutely right because the whole half played out like that, crossing, 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 and it was obvious that, in my eyes, that was the game plan, and there was nothing else. And of course, there's the argument that okay, Lamia is with 10 men, they're gonna sit back and all this, but that's fine to a certain extent, but also like how far can you take that excuse? Like, because they're gonna sit back. Like they were from 10 men before the half, so then you go into the half and you have time to talk tactics, adjust if you need to, this and that, and then you come out and your only game plan is just cross heavy.
Right.
That to me is not good enough. That to me is a game plan that underestimates Lamia, thinks we could just get by just by basically filling the box with crosses, which might work against some opponents, but again, Lamia is sixth in the standings. Like, you're not going to treat Lamia the way you're going to treat Kifisia or, whatever, Yanina. So having this, again, I don't know the game plan, but I'm just talking about what I saw. And what I saw was this just very basic, straightforward attack of crossing. And that makes it really easy for the opponent to figure it out.
Right.
I know I've talked a lot already, but I went back and watched the second half of the game, just to confirm or not confirm some things that I noticed, and I got to give credit to Lamia. Why? Because I think they caught on to this game plan pretty quickly. If you go back and watch the second half, you'll notice that every time we bring the ball to the wing, they are attacking our ball holder on the wing. Say if it's Mancini on the right or Palacios, they're attacking that guy with 2 men. So they're always going about it to have either an equal amount of numbers, 2v2 on the wing, or even a 3v2 in some instances. That to me says that they've understood the game plan 100%. They're attacking the wings and they're trying to close down the crosses before they even happen. I noticed in real time that a lot of the crosses weren't even getting in. Crosses would deflect off of the first player jumping in. In some instances, the wing player, our wing player, didn't even have an alley to cross, and he would turn back and recycle the ball to the top of the box where like Ruben would be, and then they would recycle it to the left side, and then this would keep going on, basically like pick a side, left, right, left, right. So which is not uncommon. You do see that, but it was happening over and over and over and over again to the point it's like this is becoming very obvious that the opponent is doing something very right in the sense that they are well disciplined in the sense that they could stop many of the crosses coming in before they come in. Um, so I gotta give credit to Lamia because of what I said, but the credit only goes so far because if you're gonna make it easy for the opponent by this one very one-dimensional attack, then yeah, they all they need is, Vokalos, I guess hats off to him. If he realizes, listen, they're only attacking from the wings and only crossing, then all you need to do is tell your players 2v2, 3v2 on them on the wing, and then it makes our job very difficult.
Right.
That was a spiel.
No. I mean, I'm visualizing everything that you were talking about, and it's true because the thing is, it wasn't even just with Lamia. Like you're mentioning this, and I'm thinking back to pre first leg against PAOK, and we saw a lot of similar things against other opponents where we were just heavily relying on crosses. I mean, me and you have talked about it in the chat before as well, where we rely on these crosses and it makes our attack very one-dimensional and we get caught out a lot. Opponents know we're going to press and we're going to cross. We're going to press and we're going to cross. And to me, that Lamia game is just confusing because we didn't see that against PAOK in the first leg. We saw us with a fluid buildup, especially on our only goal in that game against PAOK. It was from Jakowski up to Bakasetas, who passed it out to the wing, and we were bouncing the ball quickly, and got ourselves into the box and had a direct shot where Sporad finished that attempt from Bernard. So it's like we saw that direct play and it worked so well, and it's like, why revert back against Lamia? It's my only understanding is maybe Terim was thinking that, all right, it's Lamia, we can kind of take it a little bit differently. We can go with a more simple approach and not play direct. I just don't understand where, he's a coach who makes adjustments all the time. He didn't really adjust against Lamia. It was kind of like throw guys on and just keep with the same game plan again and again.
And he put on Jerry Yeremayev at the half, so sure, we could credit him for that, but it's not just about changing personnel or whatnot. Like that helps. Like obviously Yeremayev at the half was a right move. You go with a two-striker approach, and if you're gonna go playing this crossing ball, then yeah, Yeremayev is your target man more so than Sporar, I guess. But he kept both of them on, so I don't disagree with that, and I wouldn't bash him on that. That was the right move, but tactically, I didn't see anything that told me there was any game plan other than we're just going to attack them via crossing and there's nothing else.
Right.
Like I said, to the point where like there were too many times where I noticed the wing players being unable to cross the ball because Lamia was just doing a good job with attacking them on the wing and cutting down the crosses before they even came in. So again, it was just so obvious. Let me throw some stats at you. Even when we were able to get the crosses in, they were pretty ineffective. We had 42 crosses just in the second half. There's 45 minutes and a half. That's almost a cross per minute. If you throw in corners on top of that, we had 11 corners. That's 53 crosses and corners just in the second half. That is more than a cross or a corner per minute. And of course, those numbers are going to be inflated because we had 10 men and we had like 80% of the possession in the second half. So I'm not saying the numbers are not going to be higher than average in terms of crossing, but that, in my opinion, is still a ridiculous number. Having more than a cross per minute, cross/corner per minute, is insane. And by the way, out of just the crosses, I said 42 crosses, 9 of them were accurate. So you have Sporar, you have Yeremayev, 2 target men. Yeremayev's got to be like 6'5". And, I'm not saying, we need 50% cross success rate because that's obviously unrealistic. But, if you have all this possession and you're focusing heavily on the crosses and like this is your only game plan, I do get a feeling it's got to be a little better than that. And in practice, it didn't come to anything. By the way, the Vayanidis pass to Yeremayev for the goal doesn't even count as a cross. So It can't even, and that's undebatable because I'm looking at by any of these stats. He had, I think, 0 out of 1 successful crosses is why that it tells me
Yeah.
that that doesn't count as a cross. So yeah, I mean that's trivial. Some people would count it as a cross, some people wouldn't. I'm not gonna argue that or not, but traditional crosses, meaning coming from outside of the box into the box, we were very poor on, and we were just abusing it, and it just didn't work, and there was no plan B, and it felt very, I don't know, Yova-ish in the sense that like not really adjusting. Another thing I didn't like is that I listened to the Terim press conference after that, and he really talked about the injuries that we had in the first half, which we could also talk about a little bit. And he wasn't complaining about them. He just kept harping on the point that like, that's stuff you don't plan for, which I
Mm.
completely agree with. Like, yes, that's not stuff that you plan for, but at the same time, you had halftime to at least try to fix things up. It's neither an excuse to lose 2 players. You don't plan for it. You don't want that to happen, but it's not like it happened after the second half and then you were kind of in no man's land. It happened before halftime. So if you needed to make necessary adjustments and whatnot, you could have. So I don't, you know I don't know how much emphasis I want to put on that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it goes without saying the injuries, especially, I mean, have just been ridiculous. I mean, we were kind of suffering with that with Yova, but it's like ever since Terim came in, it's just like the dials just turned up all the way, and it's almost like a dead horse that we've beaten so much in our chat, where literally it's like every day I open up the app, and it's like so and so's injured, Ruben's out, Chedding's injured.
Charon was out that game.
Yeah, and it's like I don't understand what's going on that front. I don't want to point fingers or anything, but it's like, the other teams, I mean, PAOK and all these other teams, they've been playing multiple games like we have. It's not like they've been playing, once a week, and they haven't suffered nearly the injuries we have. So it's like we can't really blame schedule. It's just I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's the training regimens, maybe it's the workouts. I don't know what it is, but that's like its whole other separate issue that we're kind of dealing with this season while the others aren't even having to deal with it. So we've caught some type of injury bug, and I hope that it passes through. Um, but
We
you gotta find.
um we've talked about the training staff. Like, I don't know, at some point you got to start questioning the training staff, and we're not going to talk about it much again because we've already covered it. But
Right.
I also don't I do think the Leofotos pitch is pretty poor. I think, without having definite stats behind me to say this, I think off the top of my memory, the majority of our injuries do happen at home rather than away. I'm thinking back even to the 2 ACLs that we've had, Aitor and Magnuson, both at home. Okay, freak accidents. I'm not saying they are 100% because of the home pitch, but again, I don't think coincidences are random for the most part. Patterns mean something. And it does seem, just based off of memory, that, I would say maybe 2 out of every 3 injuries we have are actually at home rather than away.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I wonder if someone actually knows something about the Leo Photos pitch, because it just doesn't really seem good. Players are often slipping. I'm not talking about today because it was raining today.
Yeah.
But on a normal day, players are slipping, losing their footing. Obviously 2 ACLs on the pitch. It just, something doesn't feel like it's a high quality pitch. We've also had problems with it in the past. Like, they've like changed the grass in Leo Photos like twice in the past like 3 or 4 years. Like, that to me doesn't say like, oh, that's a healthy, good pitch.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's such an old stadium, and I mean, I love the stadium, but its age is showing. I mean, it's 100 years old at this point. It's like, today Mancini was going for a cross, and I'm looking, and there's like overgrown grass, right, like where the corner flag is supposed to be, and I'm looking, and there's like weeds growing and stuff, and I'm looking at that, and I'm like, man, like, that's just like that doesn't. It looks like my local park down the street, and I'm like, this is supposed to be a professional pitch. It's like, I mean, yeah, that probably does have something to do with it, where these guys are slipping and getting injured. The pitch seems flat, but there's a lot of spots where you'll see pieces come up when they slip and they fall, and it's like we don't see this when we play at Oaxaca or we play at Tumba or wherever. So yeah,
like
that
like you like you said, if other teams aren't having this problem to the same extent, then you got to start asking why. What's the difference between us and them? Well, there's the pitch, there's the training staff, there's the coach. Maybe, like, again, I'm not blaming Tarim or anything. I'm just saying, like, just look at the differences between us and them, and then at least we could make a somewhat informed decision or opinion on what is leading to all these injuries.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think that's something to think about. And kind of, ponder on a little bit. That again, that Lamia game was a little bit of a disappointing result. A lot of different factors there. We got that 2-2. We hit the post at the end, and then I think we had a shot cleared off the line as well, like a moment after that. Unfortunate. It shouldn't have to come down to that in the first place anyway. Hats off to Lamia. They're a good team. They had a good plan against us, but
They're
it's
well drilled. They're well
yeah,
drilled. I don't. They have Vokolos who Panathinaikos fans know well. They. Was it deserved? Was it not? It depends how you look at it. But I think they did exactly what they wanted to do. After rewatching the second half, it was pretty obvious to me that they had realized the game plan and they were obviously playing for the draw. I'm not saying they were not playing for the draw. They were definitely playing for the draw, and in their situation that was a good result. But after watching the second half again, it was obvious to me that they figured out the game plan and this was what they wanted to execute, and they were well disciplined, well drilled, and they got it done. That's why I got to give credit to them, but also point fingers to us on the inside because we kind of made it easy for them.
yeah,
What else can
yeah.
I say?
Yeah, and it's games like these where you kind of look back at the end of the season. Let's say if you missed the title by a point or two, and you're like, these are the games that you have to win. Again, Lamia, or they're like a top 6 side, top 7
They're
side.
they're six. They're six. So you're gonna play them again in the playoffs, and you bring up a great point because you're gonna have to play them twice in the playoffs, and nothing less than 6 points is acceptable. Who
Right.
was the only team that dropped points to the sixth side in the playoffs last year?
It was
It was
us.
us at home to Volos.
Yep. Yeah.
You're not gonna win the league like that. So if something like that happens again, if you don't get 6 points off of Lamia in the playoffs, you're not gonna win the league. I'll
Yeah.
not a betting man, but I would bet pretty well because every other team for the most part is gonna take 6 points off of them.
Nick and I talked. Me and Nick have talked about this for years, and I mentioned this before Jova was sacked. There was a lot of complaints about us winning derbies or not winning derbies, not getting points there. The thing is with Jova that kind of transformed our team a little bit is these teams that we were supposed to be beating, we were beating, um, especially that first season where we won the cup. And then, this season eventually started to kind of, his steam started to run out a little bit when we weren't getting those wins against the derbies that we were supposed to be getting. But we're not going to win titles if we're not beating Bolos, we're not beating Lamia. We know on any given day anything can happen in a derby, but those must-win gimmies that you have to win, you have to take it. Panathinaikos has suffered with this for many, many years. I mean, I'm thinking back all the way back to like 2012, 2013, where we'd lose against Panionios, we'd lose against Atromitos, and we'd go and we'd beat PAOK and we beat Ike and we beat Olympiacos. And it's like, okay, tough luck. You beat those are one-off games. You need to week in, week out, beat the quote unquote, inferior opponent on the pitch. And when you're not doing that, when you fail to do that, you're just setting yourself up for failure. And like you said, with Volos last year, we weren't able to get the win against Volos, and it cost us. It bit us, and we ended up dropping it against a second last game. I think it was against Olympiacos, and we were officially eliminated. Like it's
That
just
that Olympiacos and Volos were the reasons we botched it. 50% because of the Volos result at home, and 50% because of the Olympiacos result. That's my opinion.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So
that's
my
the
point is, I'm happy to forget about Sunday. I think what we're doing is good. That's why I rewatched the second half. I wanted to see what went wrong because to not beat a team with 10 men for 45 minutes is unacceptable. You see, the next day, Ike did it. Ike did it against whoever. Who was it? Kifisia? Who are they playing?
Yeah,
Kifisia had 10 men for basically the whole game, but Ike did what they were supposed to do. They got the job done. Like there's no excuses when the other team has 10 men. So that's why I'm saying I'm fine to forget about it. What happened last weekend? It's fine. It's not the end of the world. At the end of the day, we're only 1 point off the top. So
right.
again, nothing is lost. It's not the end of the world, but you're gonna have to fix these things for the playoffs because nothing less than 6 points is acceptable versus Lamia. And there's no excuses in the playoffs. Oh, Lamia was sitting back. No, like no,
Exactly.
you know they're gonna sit back. Whatever they may or not. They may. You just should expect that they're gonna sit back because they're afraid. They're a smaller team. They're still a good team, but there's no excuses in the playoffs. So
Yeah.
that's why I can't wrap my head around they sat back for 45 minutes. Like, okay, what happens
Right.
when this happens in the playoff? We're gonna be crying that they
Right.
sat back. No, you're going to be crying that you dropped 2 points.
This is the thing is this is the Greek league. You're gonna come up against teams that like to sit back a lot and play low blocks.
80% of the teams are going to sit back. Anybody outside of the top four and Aris is going to sit back. Like, they're smaller teams. Are for the most part not well drilled. Like you nailed it exactly. Like, that's not an excuse in this league because it just happens too much.
Yeah, exactly. You're playing against low blocks. We've seen it time and time again. You Lamia, Atromitos, all these other teams, they like to play these low blocks. They like to play tough. That you're gonna have to find a solution. AEK are finding solutions. PAOK are finding
Same
solutions.
same same thing with a physical excuse. Same thing with a physical excuse. Like, oh, they were beating us up. Like, again, like, half the teams in the Greek league are going to beat you up. Like, half of
Right.
them don't know how to play proper football. Like,
Yeah.
these are things that you can expect. I'm not saying it's easy to get past it, but it's the job of a good coach and a big team to solve these problems. Big teams don't complain that, like, oh, they were beating us up. Like,
Yeah.
again, maybe I'm being too blunt, too brutal, but like, I just, if you have high expectations for your team, I can't get around the, oh, they were playing very physical. Like, yes, it's frustrating and it interrupts you, and that's the whole point. Like, I get that, but that's just not an excuse. Not in this league where most of the small teams are gonna be doing that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's like I just think about, for example, I keep going back to that first leg against PAOK where we played so well, and then that just sudden regression against Lamia. And it's like you see stuff like that, and it's frustrating and can be a little bit concerning. And I'm not trying to harp on the negative either. I'm a huge fan of Terim. I like Terim, but like to your point, the expectation has been set. For me, I've said it. The expectation was set as soon as Jovanovic got fired. It's win or bust. And it's like, if you put in performances like that against Lamia, you're not going to win, and you're rightfully going to get criticized because that game, we can say physical, we can say low block, we can say all these excuses that we want. All the players aren't smart, whatever. Terim kept going with the same tactic again and again and again, like we alluded to a few moments earlier. That's stuff where it kind of frustrates me and concerns me a little bit because it's like come playoffs time, we know that he does adjust, but it's like having a stubborn game like that is going to cost us. You need to win in the playoffs. You need to win. You can't,
Yeah,
especially against Lamia. That's the team to go for. And it's like if
six
you're just going to
points.
keep doing the same thing, you're going to get screwed. And you need you need the 6 points against Lamia.
Everyone else is going to do it, and you can't just assume. Okay, let me just say this: last year, everyone else picked off points off of all those 6 points in the playoffs. Fine. This year it might not be the same, but you can't just assume that someone's not going to pick up points against Lamia. you
Right.
you got to do your job. I say this all the time. You got to do your job, and your job is to get 6 points off of Lamia. Fuck what everyone else does. If they get 6 points, 4 points, 3 points, 1 point, 0 points, it doesn't matter. You have to get 6 points off of Lamia if you want to have a chance at this title. And if you're not, just like last season, you're putting yourself in a pretty difficult position because that's probably going to lead you to have to flip a game against one of the other teams. For example, just like last year, if you drop points at home versus Volos, fine, but you're going to have to beat AEK twice then. And you're not banking on that, not because you're not good enough, just because it's derbies. It's, anything can happen. So you do your job against Lamia, and then you worry about the other games, I guess. But
Exactly.
unacceptable in the playoffs to drop points against Lamia, whether they have 10 players, 11 players, home, away. Again, we've said it so many times, 6 points against Lamia. Fix what went wrong on Sunday. I'm happy to forget about it now, but it cannot happen in the playoffs.
Exactly. And kind of just to kind of like segue our performance from Sunday a little bit, or it was Saturday actually,
Saturday, yeah, sorry. I keep
but
saying Sunday.
against Lamia. Me too. I keep thinking Sunday. We kind of saw that in today's game against PAO, where Panathinaikos ultimately got the progress. We went ahead. We progressed, but we lost the game 2-1. right? And the expectation, I don't know for you, Alex, but my expectation going in was after that first game in Tumba, we got the job. For me, that was the hard part was going there and getting a win. That was the first win that we ever got in the cup, I think, in Tumba. So we did
That's what they
the
said. Yeah.
hard, we
Yep.
did the difficult thing.
Yep.
So my thought was, okay, we're gonna be home. We're gonna start off. Maybe we'll win by 1 or 2 goals. That was my expectation. That was my thought. That momentum's on our side. Yeah, we had the Lamia hiccup, but I had thought, what, maybe we're just taking them a little bit easy. And we saw the game as soon as it started, where Panathinaikos is basically sitting back and we're just inviting PAOK. We're inviting PAOK. We're inviting PAOK, and we're all talking in the chat about it. And I think me and Alki were the only ones that were at first like not as concerned, but everybody else was voicing their concerns. At first, I wasn't concerned. I'm like, you know what? They're desperate. We're gonna catch them out on the counter. Then the first half ends. Then the second half starts. We're still in our own box. We're trying to run. We lose the ball. Foti's running around, but he's not getting in the box. We're not making penetrating runs. And then I started getting worried because PAOK is missing a chance here, missing a chance there, flying over the bar. And I'm like, okay, this is getting a little bit scary. And before you know it, 1-0. And I'm like, oh, it's 1-0. We haven't had one chance the entire game yet. And PAOK are looking more dangerous. And it just ultimately was kind of reflecting a little bit of what we saw in Lamia. We weren't seeing as many crosses today because, again, we played a better opponent. But it was just kind of frustrating because we looked really dead. And, once we started that extra period, it was 2-0, then we started seeing Panathinaikos starting to come alive a little bit. And I said it in the chat. I'm like, this is the way we were supposed to have played the game from the start. Why did it take until the 110th minute to start playing like you wanted? That's the stuff that kind of concerns me. Not to bring a downer on the whole situation, but
Well, we have to talk about we have to talk about the unpretty stuff. It's not just the nice stuff. So I like that you brought up about expectations going into the game because that's kind of important. Because I had similar expectations to you. Like I expected a pretty similar game to what we saw in Duba. So what we saw in Dumba, we saw basically, I think, both teams playing their game, like just the game that they want to play, regardless of what they think the opponent's going to do. Basically, a very open game, like because we saw both chances from both teams. I think we had maybe 15, they had 12 in that game. Like very open game, attacking, pretty decent defending for both sides. Very just overall, just both teams played their game. And I expected to see something similar today, even though we were 1-0 up. And then it just didn't go like that at all. Like from very early on, like you said, it was obvious that we were sitting back, inviting pressure, playing on the counter. We ended the first half with 66-34 possession, not in our favor, in PAOK's favor. Something very, unlike us. Even under Jova, under Terim, we're a possession-oriented team. So to be that second best in possession was very surprising, and not just surprising, but I think telling towards what the game plan was. We didn't look threatening at all in the first half, like you said. Not that we not only we didn't look threatening, we just weren't threatening at all because, as I said, we were just inviting the pressure. PAOK was the one that controlled the game, had the chances. Although, to be fair, they didn't have any really good chances in the first half, but they were the ones that play. Like we just said, play ball. Like, which I just don't agree with. I maybe I'm gonna get flack about this from people, but I don't agree with sitting back for 90 minutes. Maybe you want to park the bus at 70, 75, 80, whatever. Sure. I'm not going to disagree with that, but I just don't agree with sitting back for 90 minutes, especially in a game where the opponents are equally matched. Like we're not talking about a team that we're scared of. Like, sure, PAOK plays the most attacking football in the country. They've put 4 or 5 past, small teams pretty regularly recently. But in the grand scheme of things, the opponents are pretty equally matched. So why are we sitting back for 90 minutes?
Right.
Plus, actually, I think the fact that PAOK plays the most freestyle attack in the country is more of a reason not to sit back. Like, you're going to take a team that plays the most freestyle attack and let them attack? Like that just doesn't, that logically, without doing any like analytics analysis, that doesn't sound to me. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I personally don't agree with sitting back for 90 minutes. I could see the goal come. I said this even before the goal. I'm not just saying this because we went down 1-0, 2-0 and I'm a genius. I said this from 0-0. And the game could have ended 0-0 and we could have advanced on a 0-0, 1-0 aggregate and I still would have said this. Like I just do not agree with sitting back for 90 minutes when you're allegedly a big team, because we are, and you're playing an equal caliber opponent and you're home. So none of
Right.
those things to me sit well,
Yeah.
which is also why I point, somewhat of a finger to Terim today, because I just don't agree with the outlook of the game. And again, it's not like I hate Terim again. Like
Yeah.
I'm pretty on board with him, but again, we have to just say it how it is, what we see, and call it out, because that's why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad you brought that up as well, Alex, because I'm in the same boat as well. I want to be consistent because again, back in December, I had said this is the bar that's been set for Tareem. And I'll give him his flowers when he does it well, like I did against last week, that first leg. That was probably the best I've seen us play under Tareem. Um, it was just confusing too because I brought this up too earlier in the chat where Terim said we're gonna play attacking. We're not gonna defend. Like if we concede 5, we're gonna score 6, like something like that, right? So it was kind of weird to just see us suddenly sit back. Like that's not our identity, especially this year where we struggle defensively a lot. You wouldn't expect us to rely on our defense to get us out of a game, right? Because the whole plan really under Tareem is to attack, 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 press, press, press. And it's like, you had something that worked the first leg against PAOK. PAOK's going to come to your house and try to hit you in the mouth. So why are you going to invite them in? Like to your point, why are you going to let the best freestyle playing football team play their game in your house? Like, no, you need to nip it right in the bud right when you get the chance. So that was just really concerning and disappointing for me. Um, today we didn't get through because of Tareem. Today we got through because of individual brilliance by Drukowski and
And
luck.
luck. Yeah,
Yeah,
and luck.
that Trifili finally came in, in clutch because that's the only reason that we went through. Again, like you said too, nothing against Tareem. I have nothing personally against him. It's just
No.
I just call it as he is. The coach got it wrong tactically, big time today. But
And let me just say
yeah,
this. He's allowed to get it wrong some days. He doesn't
right.
have to be perfect. Like, this is the thing. Like, it's not an anti-Tareem narrative. It's not anything. I still back him to win the fucking double at the end of the day. Like,
Me
I think
too.
he can do it. I think we can do it. We have a great shot at the cup, obviously. And we're still very much in the league. So I think he can do it. I think we can do it. We just have to be up for it. He's allowed to miss some games,
Right.
but we do have to call it out when he does. And you have to fix it. That's what I was saying with Lamia. You just have to fix it. That's it. We can forget about it. We can move on. We just have to fix it. What happened today, I know we're not going to be in a two-legged scenario again for the end of until the end of the season. It's just one legs from here on out. But whatever went wrong today, fix it. Don't sit back. Whatever he sees went wrong, and I hope he sees that stuff went wrong. Just fix it. Don't fall into the same trap. Don't lose 2-1 to PAOK at home in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You know,
That yeah. That's my concern a little bit too, because now that this has happened, you just know that it's gonna fuel PAOK even more when we go to play them in the playoffs.
yeah.
PAOK, for as much as I give Lucescu crap for being a crybaby and a sore loser, he is a mastermind in psychology as a coach because he has like adopted he's made his team adopt this narrative that they have like this inferiority complex within them, and that's what kind of fuels the team to play. He's been doing this since his first stint where he's this Athenian versus Thessaloniki
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and and he'll make little comments about his team that
He makes it
I
very very sides. Like it feels like a war kind of. Like
yes,
if we're going back to like the city states in ancient Greece, it's like the
yes,
Athenians versus Spartans. It's like he makes it very, I don't know.
yeah,
I
it's
just
like
get this
mental
sense it's like
warfare.
go to war against Athens. Like it's funny, but it's also I think purposeful, like you said.
It is, yeah, it's tactical. Like it's all tactical with him. Like that's what I've noticed with him. Like as a fan, it's annoying because you just kind of see, you're like, dude, shut up. But then it's like, you know what? If I'm a player and this is my coach and he's coming up with this narrative, it's probably going to spur me up to when I play the Athenian teams, I'm going to have a chip on my shoulder, like, okay, screw these guys.
Yep.
So, I get why he does it, and I hope that Terim picks up on it. I mean, I think Lucescu's dad was even saying that Terim's never going to beat Lucescu, and I mean, finally, looks like he did.
Happened in the second game.
Yeah. So it's like,
But still, he's 1 out of 3 wins against Lucescu, and I think it's worth noting. Okay, the win was big last week, 1-0 over there, but 2 out of the 3 games, not only we lost, but we got outplayed. Honestly, we got outplayed in the 2-1 in the league. Then we matched them in the 1-0. Played probably pretty a little better, I would say. I was saying that at the time, and I still think so. And then again today, we got outplayed. So 2 out of 3 games lost to them, and 2 out of 3 kind of outplayed. So
yeah,
Lucescu's dad's comment is irrelevant now. He beat him in the second game, but it's
yeah,
still something. It's still something to note down because come playoffs and come second half of playoffs, PAOK might be your main competitor for the title. You never know. So we don't know
yeah,
what the playoff schedule is, obviously, but you're kind of looking at a scenario where you probably want to get 4 points off of PAOK in the playoffs, a draw over there and a win at home, and then you've
yeah.
kind of done your job. 2 wins, of course, is more than good, but 4 points is kind of where you're looking at if you wanna top them.
Yeah, and it's one of those concerns too, just bringing up those games against PAOK, because I also believe, I think PAOK are going to be, along with Ike, of course, like our main kind of competitors. Um, it's just, I just don't want Terim to think that he can just sit back against PAOK and invite them in. Like, don't, like, Terim, I'm hoping that you saw today what happened. And it's like, you can't invite PAOK in. You need to press him back. I mean, that's what we did last week. I mean, it was a 50-50 game. That was one of the best games I've seen in a while. But I mean, we were playing like with confidence. Like, we were playing really good and we looked like a top side.
Yeah.
And it's like, to suddenly see the opposite today, it goes back to what we were seeing with expectations. My expectations was to see more of the same, and we saw like one of the worst performances in a derby this year. It's for
I'm
120 minutes.
I'm not super worried. I think it boils down to it was a second leg of a two-legged tie, and we had the lead on aggregate. I believe that's why he did what he did, even though like I said many times, I don't agree with sitting back, regardless of what the aggregate score is. I don't
Yeah,
think it's going to happen. I'm not super worried. You can make an argument like, oh, okay, we're gonna have to go up to Thessaloniki, and maybe he's going to play for a draw. Like, again, we don't play for draws. Like, I want to go to Thessaloniki and win. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but we're not going to Thessaloniki to draw.
right.
We're a big team. We're fighting for the title. Like, you're going to be happy with a draw, but you never play for the draw. And players will tell you this, and good coaches will tell you this. You don't play for the draw, no matter what. So I guess I could see an argument for like, oh, we're gonna go to Thessaloniki and we're gonna sit back and hope for the draw. No, I don't want to see that either. So, and I'm not worried that's gonna happen because we didn't do that last week when we went up to Thessaloniki. We played for the win and we got the win. So I don't think we're gonna. Yeah, I'm not worried. But
Yeah,
just fix it. Like I said, fix it. What happened with Lamia? Fix it for the playoffs. Don't let it happen. What happened today? Fix it. Don't let it happen in the playoffs and just get it done.
yeah, yeah. And part of me, I mean, we kind of discussed this too. I mean, part of me also wonders if switching to Oaxaca during the playoffs is going to switch kind of the way that we play the game and kind of how our opponents come. Because if you remember under Jova, I mean, like the game against Villarreal and when we played against Marseille, like playing in Oaxaca was.
Marseille was at Leoforos.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. Actually, yeah,
But you're right. But you're right about Villarreal. Yeah, it was at Oaxaca, and we did. That was probably the best game of the season.
yeah. Like,
Well, at least one of them. We held
we
we
play
held
on those big
Villarreal
pitches.
to, yeah.
Yeah, we play almost big. Like last week in Tumba, I mean, we in these bigger pitches, we tend to play a lot better when there's space. So, I mean, maybe that boils down to it as well. It's just, yeah, it's just been kind of weird to jump from point to point a little bit. I mean, from PAOK to just kind of thinking about like playing at Leoforos, like we saw today. It's just weird seeing kind of like a drop off in our performances. Again, there's different factors that kind of weigh into it, but it just makes
I
me
said
think a
it.
little bit.
I said it before the game too. I wasn't. I honestly, I didn't. Like I said, we talked about expectations. I didn't expect Terim to go with this, very sitting back, tactic. But beside that, the only thing I was worried about was our recent form against PAOK at home, which is quite bad. I think it was mentioned in the chat at some point. I don't remember exactly what it is to give you the stats, but just off of memory, okay, 2-2 earlier this year. We should have won that game because we outshot them like 24-6. They came away with a result, but whatever. But 2-2, and then like we lost like 2-1 last year. I don't know. I'm talking out of my ass right now, but the form at Leoforos versus PAOK specifically, going back to last season, is not good. That was the only thing that worried me. And it kind of played out like that too, partially because of maybe just how things have been recently, but also I think because of what we said about the tactics.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
definitely.
again, like you cannot lose to PAOK at home in the playoffs. Like that's something we have to fix. And I'm not
Right.
just saying like, at some point things change. I'm not saying just because it's happened the last 5 times, it's going to continue happening, but you just got to make sure it doesn't happen because that could be a season killer.
Yeah, it definitely can. It definitely can. We're gonna have to see, man. We're gonna have to see. It's just the playoffs always spice up the season, because we just don't know whoever's in first at the end of the regular season. It doesn't even matter because that could just
Doesn't
all end.
matter. We were in first last year and we botched it. We were, I think, 2 points ahead last season.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It means nothing. It means nothing. Let's talk a little bit about the penalties. How did you see the penalties since that was
Oh
indecisive?
man. Yeah, the penalties. So I knew Spora. I'm not even just saying this like, oh, I knew. I literally was like, Spora was gonna miss the penalty
Because he's not clutching penalties. He's
he's
not.
not.
He's not. Who missed the penalty against Volos in the playoffs last year in the final minute? It was
Spora,
him.
dude.
It was him. Sometimes he's good when it's like the 25th minute. I'm not saying he's a bad penalty taker.
Right.
Sometimes he's been good. Most of the time he's actually been pretty bad if you go back and see like probably his last 10 penalties. But he's just not clutch in the penalty, unfortunately.
No, he's not. That's where I wish we had Foti. I mean, Foti, he was just coming back from injury today, so it was kind of like quiet. I wish we had him just in for penalties. At least Foti, he's gonna score him for the most part. But I knew he was gonna miss. I knew Sporar was gonna miss. But I mean, I was losing hope when Drakowski he kept guessing the wrong way in those initial penalties, and I'm like, oh, it's over. I was like, our luck is gonna run out.
I said it out loud. I literally said it out loud. Like how many times can you get lucky? Like it runs out at some point.
Yeah, exactly. I said in the chat, I'm like, our luck is over because Limnos skied it, and I just sit back down and I'm like, oh no, I'm like, this is it. I'm like, this.
Bro, that was bad. That wasn't even close. That was worse than who skied it for Olympiacos?
Kamara.
Was it Kamara? That was worse than Kamara's, honestly. That was not even close. That was.
He skied it. I'm like, no. I'm like, you could tell he was in his head, against his old team. I'm like, crap. But then Drago just came in and just save after save after save, God. Literally 3 in a row. And then Arau, I thought Arau was gonna put it away. And I'm like, why did you blast it like that?
Same penalty he took against Olympiacos. Do you remember that one?
No, I don't actually.
He blasted it. He blasted it middle of the goal, and it hit off the post and went in. Oh. It was the same penalty. The difference is that this one was like an inch higher, so it didn't bounce in. It just bounced right on the line and went out. But it was like, if you look at them, it was the same exact penalty, which it's a good penalty. I don't think blasting it right down the middle high is a bad penalty. But like, if you're a guy like Arau, who's like obviously like a big guy and has got some muscle in his foot, you always leave the possibility open to either blast it over or blast it into the post. So, I didn't blame him for the penalty that he took because that's clearly like his comfort zone. But oh my god,
dude, that was today. I mean, okay, Limnos scoring that buzzer beater. I mean, he scored and that was the end of the game, literally. That was huge.
Ballistic.
Oh, dude, I went crazy because like I was saying in the chat, like the last couple of years, I've kind of mellowed out. Like score a goal. I'm like, yeah, okay, dude. I jumped in the air. I was basically ready to do a backflip. I was like,
literally jumping off the walls,
dude. Because Alki called it. Alki, I mean, he said it was a winner, but he still said it was like 120th minute.
Good enough. Good enough.
Dude, I couldn't believe it. Like, no way. I love that, man. And then we
and what a finish too. Let's give him credit for the finish.
Yeah,
like, good finish, man. Good finish. I did not see that. The ball dropped down. I think maybe Arau controlled it and then like kind of just that pass it on to him, and like I was like, oh no, he's just gonna fucking sky it or he's just gonna do something. But the excellent finish, like
Yeah.
you really see the like that's the stuff that he was not doing consistently for the Ethniki before he got injured. But like he's a class player, and if he could get some form that he had before his major injury, he could be an asset. I don't think he's
Yeah.
gonna, I said this before, I don't think he's gonna be starter material this year because he's clearly just getting like, minutes here and there. But come next year, if he gets some physical strength and all that, he could definitely be an asset.
Yeah. I mean, that finish, the way he just curved it past Kotarski, I mean, it was just incredible. And I was just like, oh my goodness, man! Like that was such a nice finish.
Calm.
And oh my gosh, dude, it was just incredible. And then and just Alki said it too. Drago's performance. He's been here for a month, man, and just what he did today, he's already getting legendary status at this rate amongst the fans. Like if you see how the fans are acting, it's insane. And it's like, can you blame
Myself
them?
included. Myself included. I'm
Yeah,
like, I'm going in. Like he's getting all the memes. The edits are amazing. Like
yeah,
it's so good. And to be honest, we got to give him credit. Like a lot of us were critical about him in the beginning, critical or just unsure. Like there was a lot of skepticism and just
yeah. That he was
vagueness
a set
about like
keeper.
Serie B relegation zone. I think he got dropped there too, so we didn't really know what to expect. And to be fair, like we could talk about Brignoli all we want, but Brignoli was good for the most part in his PAO career. So it was always going to be hard to either match a keeper to his level or get
Yeah,
a better one. But we got a better one. So
he was the Super League MVP last season,
yeah,
Brignoli. So it's
yeah,
like Drago had like huge shoes to fill in, basically
yeah,
coming in the way
exactly.
he did. And it's hats off to the guy, man. Like he came into a team that's trying to win the title. Their goalkeeper just basically, left them, who was the MVP for them, and gets thrown into the starting 11 right after Lodigan has his heroic performance against Olympiacos, the rival. And he just came in like a boss and he just took care of it. And today, I mean, three penalties in a row in such
Three
a
penalties.
crucial game like that. Like that's legendary stuff right there, man. And I think it was Alki. Somebody mentioned it where they think like he's probably not going to stay for long. I don't think he's going to stay too long either. This guy is he's 25
He's
and
26, I think.
26. He's a really good player, man. Like I think he'll stick around for another year or so. But this
He's
guy's a good
26. Yeah.
player, man. Like
I don't know. This is an interesting discussion because he's on loan, right?
oh, is he on loan? I thought we bought him.
No, I think he's on. Let me see. Let me see on transfer market.
Oh shoot, I thought we
Uh,
signed him.
no, we have him on loan. I think. Yeah.
Oh crap! Well, that's disappointing. I thought he was ours.
But there's some debate, not debate. I just don't remember to be honest. But I don't remember if he has a buy or not, a buy
The
option.
stipulation.
Um, he is option to buy. Okay, so he
Oh,
is on loan. He is on loan until the
oh,
summer, and it says on transfer market that he has an option to buy. And I think I do remember this because I do believe someone in the chat said it might be around like 3 or 4 million,
oh, okay.
which honestly, call me crazy. I'm paying it right now. Fuck it.
Me too. Use
Fuck
the
it.
money because we're gonna sell Foti. Use that money from Foti, some of that money from Europe, and buy him. Buy Dragowski.
He's a good age. He's literally proved himself already just in the 1 month that he's been here, and the
Yeah,
fans love him. It's a lot of money for a keeper. I'm not saying it's not 3 4 million. We paid 3.5 million for Sporar, who's a striker, and regardless of how he's panned out with us, that just tells you about like where our distribution of funds is going. So
right.
to pay basically the same amount of money for a keeper that you paid for Sporar a couple of years ago is obviously kind of lucrative, but it's gonna be really hard to say no because of what he's doing and how much the fans are loving him right now because he's become a fan favorite, like you said, immediately.
Yeah, this guy's gonna be a fan freaking favorite. Already he is. I'm like, dude, I wanted to
He's
buy his jersey today. I'm like, and normally I don't even buy goalkeeper jerseys. I'm like, man, I want to buy a
yeah,
Jokowski
I
jersey.
want to with a 69 and everything.
I'm
Like,
not gonna lie, that's the one thing that just put me off. I don't want to walk around with a 69 on my
oh
back.
really? I feel like that's a plus though.
You like that? I'm like, I don't know, dude. Walking around the store and I've got like 69 back here. I'm like,
That's for it's for the gag.
I don't know. But what do you know? What's the story behind that? Why did he pick that?
I don't know. I think he had 69 with Spezia too. I
Okay,
might be
that's like
talking.
his number.
I might be talking out of my ass. I'm gonna
No,
see
I
if I can
think
find
it
it.
is. I think you're right because I think when we signed him, the club did a like an interview with him, and they asked him why that's his favorite jersey number or something like that. But I
Yeah,
didn't
so
get.
I have a picture. If you just Google him in his Fiorentina days, he was wearing 69. And can I find a in his? Oh no, this is not Spezia. In his Spezia days, oh, it's cut off there. I'm sure if he was wearing 69 at Fiorentina. Oh yeah, here Spezia. Oh no, that's Fiorentina again. Anyway, I'm failing, but oh yeah, 69 Spezia. Yeah, so Fiorentina and Spezia 69. So it's just his number, like you said. So
Yeah, that's his number, I guess.
maybe there's some story behind it that we don't know, but I mean, we should just get him on the pod and ask him, bro, what's up with 69?
Like, but yeah, Drago, what's up with 69, man? Like we got to know the story behind that. That's interesting.
But yeah, he's a good asset to have. Like I said, because of his
Yeah,
age, because of his performances, he is a Polish international, and he's trying to break into that starting role. Obviously, he has Szczesny in front of him, and
right.
who else other than Fabianski also.
Fabianski,
So
yeah.
they have three good keepers. So he's trying to gain some spots in the pecking order there. But he's just a good asset to have, and I would definitely try to keep him around, even if it's a kind of hefty price tag.
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, 3-4 million. I mean, and then maybe if we can even negotiate something as well, that would be good.
And maybe
Um,
he wants to stay with us. Like, he clearly is soaking it up all in. Like,
he's
so,
loving it.
that's something that we got going for us, I guess, if
Yeah.
we're to try to keep him around.
Yeah, I hope we do. To see this whole time, I thought we signed him on a free for some reason. And I was
No,
like,
because
oh,
it's so hard to find keepers in the winter transfer window. So usually, like I
yeah,
think Alki keeps saying this, like it was a godsend that we found someone this good, but usually it's going to be for a loan for playing time and stuff like that. Rarely is it going to be a buy in
bye.
winter. But we lucked out with him, and that's why I don't want to take it for granted right now, and I don't really want to take it for granted going forward after the summer. That's why
Right.
I'm kind of leaning, drop the cash.
Yeah, drop the cash for sure. Awesome. So any last things about the FC that you wanted to cover?
Nothing about the game, but there's been news about the cup final. The news came out before today, but now we know it's directly relevant to us because we are in the cup final. It's about the venue. Nothing has been confirmed, but it most likely looks like it's going to be in Volos, Panathinaikos Stadium, the home of obviously Volos, where the cup final was also last year. Nothing's confirmed, but Epo said that basically this is most likely where we're headed to. There will not be any fans, allegedly, is what they're saying. Again, none of this is confirmed. This is just most likely what it's going to. Volos, no fans, only about I think they said 100 students, which is quite a disappointment, not for the students, but for us. And I would say this even if we weren't in the cup final, because it's really a shame to see, kind of the showcase event in your country, uh, kind of be marred by closed doors. It was behind closed doors last year between AEK and PAOK. Most likely we're going to be playing Aris, barring a surprise. It's going to be behind closed doors. And my takeaway is that I'm really disappointed, not just because there won't be our fans there, but I think it's just an L for Greek football, and just the management and the leadership from EPO is really poor. This decision to me says that they are just avoiding the problem.
Right.
Obviously, we've had problems with fan violence in the past from all teams. I'm not going to point fingers at any team. So I
Right.
know there is a risk to have fans in the cup final, but if you just keep not having fans in the cup final, you're not addressing the issue. You didn't have them
Right.
last year. You're not going to have them this year. What, next year? You're also not going to have them. So you're just going to keep not addressing the issue. How are you going to get better as a country, as fans, as just an establishment to be a serious establishment, serious organization? It's just not. If you don't address the problem, you're not going to fix the problem. And this is
Right.
obviously just going around the problem, which is just very disappointing. I'm not surprised because we know Greece and we know how it's run, both the league and the country, but not surprised, but very disappointed. I was hoping that it would go differently. And also, let me just say this. I've been ranting on about it, but if we're being honest, Panathinaikos and Aris is probably the best situation you could have to try out fans. And again,
Right.
I know it's a risk, But if you take the top 5 teams and consider who are the least hostile between each other, it's probably these 2 teams. Obviously, PAOK and Aris hate each other, crosstown rivalry. We and Olympiacos don't get well with each other. Same thing with AEK. Aris, kind of is basically any team versus Aris is a pretty good chance to try to get the fan thing right.
Right.
So to see it be us against Aris, which like I said, I think is probably the least heated rivalry out of the top 5. I was really hoping that they would try it out for this. Maybe in a smaller stadium than Panathinaikos, because Panathinaikos has like what, 30,000?
Yeah.
So listen, if I had to do it, which I'm not doing it, but maybe I would pick a stadium that has like 10,000, maybe somewhere in Crete, or even if it's Agrini or something, which has like 5,000, like whatever. It doesn't have to be a big stadium. Ease into it. Ease into it. I'm not saying throw 60,000 in Oaxaca and have them kill each other. I'm not saying that. Obviously, that's the wrong move. But
Right.
ease into it, especially with a matchup that's kind of low stakes compared to what you could have.
Right.
So I'm just really disappointed. I know I went on a rant. I was really hoping it to be differently, not just because we're in it, just because of the circumstances. And I want to see it get better in this country. Like, I want everyone to have fans. I want everyone to be represented. I want our fans to be there. I want the opposition fans to be there. It's just good for the game.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know if you remember, I think it was maybe what, 2 years ago, where they or maybe it was last year, how they hinted that they had wanted to try it out in New York, in the US, where the all the Greeks are over there.
New York, Germany, they were looking at, England, and Cyprus. Those were like the 4 shortlisted countries to host it abroad.
Yeah, and it's like, if you're gonna do it in Volos without fans, go abroad then. I mean, go to New
There
York.
you
Like,
go. There you
there's so many Greeks over there in New York. There's a ton of Panathinaikos. I mean, Panathinaikos USA is located in New York,
go.
and
I'd be there. I'd be there.
dude, I would fly out. I would. We got the Cup final. It's a weekend. I would love to fly out and see Panathinaikos in the final.
Yeah.
That would be great. So it's like, they that's a whole other can of worms. I mean, where the Greek football needs to fix it. It's fan violence. I think they need to also start learning to cater towards the diaspora Greeks, because we still support our clubs away from Greece. It's just, there's a lot of there's difficult avenues to do so, pretty much. And if you're just gonna have 100 students there in an empty stadium that's 30,000 seats, what kind of final is that? There's no atmosphere. It's gonna
No
feel like it's a
atmosphere.
preseason friendly. So it's like, take it abroad then, because in the U.S. we don't have the problems that they have in Greece with these
No.
hooligans.
No.
So
And
it's like,
like there's other problems that, that's not easy either, because I don't know the logistics of it, but basically someone has to, they have to pay for it. Someone
right,
has to buy the final, from what I understand. And if anybody watches LS Footy, they talk about it much better than I would. But if you're gonna do it abroad, that has to be decided well in advance.
right,
That has to be decided from like when the season starts, not in March, basically.
right,
So that's something that they would have to agree upon in August. And they say, okay, August, and then in 9 months we're going to play the Cup final in New York. New York has bought it. Whatever New York means, I don't know who would buy it from New York, but New York has bought it. That's where the Cup final is going to be, regardless of opponents. But the problem is, they don't want to have the Cup final in New York if it's going to be Panathinaikos Aris.
right,
That's the problem. That's why we've talked so much here, and LS Footy has also talked about it, that they were always waiting to see who was going to be in the Cup final to decide where they were going to do it and if there were going to be fans.
right,
And when did it happen? It happened after the first leg. And after the first leg, Aris was basically a foot in the final, and we were also a foot in the final. Obviously, things were very sticky today, but
yeah,
basically they knew that 75% chance it's going to be Panathinaikos and Aris in the final. And that, after they knew that, then they made a decision on venue and fans. So my point is that it's very difficult for them to make a decision about a broadness, because they clearly are waiting for the teams always.
right,
If they had Panathinaikos and Aris in New York, it wouldn't be great, because it would be one-sided fandom, and they would do it like, I don't know where would they even do it? Like, I don't know, Red Bull Stadium is the only obvious
right,
choice. There's not many soccer stadiums in the area. NYCFC plays at Yankee Stadium. God no, don't do it there. sometimes they play at City Field, also same thing, baseball stadium, don't do it there. So the only go-to soccer stadium that I could think of, unless I'm being stupid, is Red Bulls, which holds about somewhere between 15 and 20,000, I think.
Right.
So would they fill that up? I don't know. And if they don't fill it up, that looks bad. And they definitely won't fill it up if the fandom is only from Panathinaikos and there's not a lot of Aris fans. So
Right.
it would be a risk for them basically to pre-decide it in August, and that's why they don't do it, and or they just don't have a buyer.
Right. Yeah, there's a whole logistics side to it, and it's Greeks and logistics, it doesn't really mix well with how they do things. But I think that's pretty much it for the FC.
Oh, one more thing. Sorry.
Sure. No, yeah.
Unrelated to the game today, also, for those who are curious what's going on, Maccabi Haifa are kind of enemy. Progressed today in the Conference League, basically where we would have been if we were not a failure against them when we met them back in December. They beat Ghent on aggregate 2-1. So they are moving on to the round of 16 in Conference League. If anyone's curious about what our old foe is doing, so yeah, that's that.
Yeah, our old green foe. They went from brothers to foe to I hope we get them.
Honestly, good for them. Their country's going through a very hard time, so they made it bitter for us, of course, but good for them
Right.
because of their circumstances, and we also were in contact with guys from their fan base, so congratulations to them, and apart from the bitterness that they brought us, I hope they do well.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Well, just briefly gonna touch on the basketball, just because we were on this brief hiatus for a little bit, but we had that Greek Cup final on the weekend, where we played our rivals Olympiacos in that final. We ended up losing that game. I believe it was like 65-53 or something like that.
It was,
Um,
yeah.
not a particularly good showing. If you ask me, it's disappointing. There's been illusion, and I mean, Adam himself has said it, that Greek Cup isn't really his priority. Europe and the league are. As a fan, I'm not really happy about it, especially when you play Olympiacos in the final and you lose to them. Never a good thing. A little bit disappointed. Where this past month or so, a few weeks has been weird for the basketball team, where Slukas has been out and coming back in and trying to rehab injury, and we haven't been playing the way that we really should be playing, or the way that we were playing in December and January. Team is playing way too dependent on Kendrick Nunn, and I don't really like it. We're playing like an NBA style team where it's like hero ball status, to try to get us out of situations. We don't really move the ball too much. Olympiacos ended up, taking advantage and beating us in that game. Again, not very happy. You wanna. For me personally, I had said it. I think Alex, you had said it, in Alki as well. The goal this year was, after missing out, we wanted to win the league double again. We missed out last year. You want to win the Greek Cup and you want to win the Greek League, and then of course, you want to make a showing in Europe. So Europe is not a guarantee. I know Adam is targeting it. I can't see us winning the European title this year with this team the way that it is right now. With injuries, we're one injury away from disaster, pretty much. So my hope is to make a run in Europe. Just try to make a playoff run, and then my hope was that we were going to win the league and the cup. The cup is now gone. Pretty disappointed about that. We're on the international break now for basketball, so it's going to kind of give everybody some time to maybe recoup, and we'll kind of see what happens when we return from there. But Alex, how are you kind of seeing? What are your thoughts on this elimination in that final?
I think it's interesting because on the one hand, like, yes, the cup is, out of the three objectives, the least important. Like, if you have EuroLeague, if you have league, and if you have cup, yes, the cup is the least important. At the same time, there's a trophy on the line, especially when you get to the final. Like, if you don't want to take it seriously from, like, I guess it's like a Final Four round anyway, not a Final Four round. It's like a tournament bracket the way it works. So I'm gonna even scratch what I wanted to say. Like, there's a trophy on the line, and basically it's going to come down to probably Olympiacos, the way the Greek league is. So I don't really agree with the sentiment that we don't take it seriously. And I don't even know if Ataman was specifically not taking it seriously in the final. I'm not saying he was or was not. But if there was a sentiment of not taking it seriously, I just don't agree with it because there's a trophy on the line at the end of the day. So that's what counts. And I would say the same thing about football. Like, yes, out of league and cup, which one's more important? Like, yes, the league is more important. We haven't won it in 14 years. We won the cup 2 years ago. Yes, the league is more important. But at the end of the day, there's a cup on the line. There's a trophy on the line. Like, and you get judged on trophies at the end of the season.
Right.
So same thing for basketball. I don't agree with the sentiment if there was that sentiment. Um, Performance wise, it was bad performance, like a lot of turnovers, which has been kind of a problem even in EuroLeague games that we've lost recently. Sloppy play, very low scoring. I guess Olympiacos really brought the defense to us because, like you said, 53 points. We had like, something 20-ish points at half. That's concerningly low. And, you know, uh, we were playing all our main guys too. Like the starting five was the main starting five. So it's not like we were throwing the game. Like, were they giving it 100? I don't know. I can't say one way or another, but it was the starting guys in. So on face value, we were taking it seriously. But in practice, I guess, yeah, we got outplayed. To lose by that much in the final, even against Olympiacos, is not a good sign, and to have such a low score is also not a good sign. Yeah, I don't know I don't know what to make of it other than just disappointing, and I just hope the sentiment wasn't, you know, the cup is the least important objective.
Yeah,
Because
especially
at the end of the day, like, why are you taking it less seriously? Like, you don't have another game for, it's not like you have a game in 2 days that you need to like
right.
rest guys. The next game is on the 29th, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's not, there's nothing in close proximity. I know some of the guys are gonna go for international and stuff like that, but I just don't get, like, what are you gaining from not taking it seriously? You're not resting anyone, nothing to be gained.
And you know what? Something that I don't like that I've been seeing too. I saw this post on Instagram, and the guy's talking about this is a new team. It's a completely new identity. Blah 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 blah. Look, I get it. When you look at it on the grand scheme of things, for let's say EuroLeague, that's been my opinion personally as well. Where I'm like, this is a new team. Like, don't expect to win the championship this year. But in this particular instance, we've played Olympiacos now, I think, 4 times this season. We beat them the last time. We took our foot off the gas. They almost came back and beat us. Um, we beat them, and we've gotten a feel for them, and we're playing them in the Greek Cup final. You need to take it serious. And to your point, we didn't have any games after that. You have to take it serious. You have to beat Olympiacos in this game.
Yeah.
It's the game before the international break. You beat them, and that's you get bragging rights against your rival, and it's also going to kind of help you to get out of this weird slump that we're in too, because
Yeah.
we did get that big win against Fener, but we're back to our old tricks again. I mean, what was this? The performance was just ridiculous. So that's been frustrating. um, I think in the summer, to kind of like continue with this basketball talk, we definitely are going to fill out the team some more. Like I was mentioning it, I think it was before the Fender game, or on our last time on the pod, where the team we're not going to win a Euro League until we add, I think, another player or two. And something that's been kind of raising recently, especially today, was like with Mario Hezonja again. He rejected 2 contract offers from Real Madrid to renew, and the rumors are burning up again that he's linked with a return to Panathinaikos. Personally, I know Kutz and Alki aren't the hugest fans of Hezonja. My thing is, if he's gonna be your main star, I get it. But the thing is, he's gonna be coming in, he's gonna be supplementing the team, and he's gonna be helping out. And my argument is as well, there's a reason why Real Madrid wants to keep Hezonja. If you're
Yeah.
bad, Real Madrid is not going to desperately try to keep. I mean, if you reject once and they didn't offer back, okay. I mean, they twice now they've tried to reach out to him. He's rejected it twice, so he's a pretty important player. So if
Great
we can
point.
add Hezonja, That will be huge. Another rumor that I saw this week, I think it was on Monday, was Vasily Micic. He was the player for Anadolu Efes. Um, Now we kind of talked about this in the chat as well. He's playing for the Charlotte Hornets in the NBA. Now Anadolu Efes has his rights to return,
Right.
but I read somewhere that I don't know. I think Panathinaikos can somehow make an offer. Like Anadolu can match the offer that we can make. I think so. If Panathinaikos offers him a contract, that's really lucrative, it's going to come down to number one, if obviously he wants to accept it, and then number two, if Anadolu is going to match what we're going to offer. From what it seems like, Panathinaikos has been kind of running on a blank check lately. So if Kendrick Nunn leaves, this is just my conspiracy. If Kendrick Nunn leaves, I think Micic is going to be the main target for the team. And I'm not going to lie, I think Micic would be the better fit because he's already familiar with Ataman and he's not that much of a hero ball guy. And he's familiar with EuroLeague already. So Hezonja would be great. And then obviously, if Micic is a true rumor, I would absolutely love that because that would help the roster much more.
What do you make of the Nunn rumors? Because he's been linked to Monaco, and we said that Monaco has given him a blank check, perhaps.
Yeah, I saw that. I think that's just paper talk with the blank check thing because Mike James is basically, like Alki alluded to. Mike James has basically been on the outer since last summer. They're having trouble even keeping him. He wants to get a big contract. So them offering Kendrick Nunn a lot of money, I mean, or a blank check per se, I'm not too worried about that because I'm not gonna lie. I think in Europe, DPG is probably gonna offer the most money. Like he's been on this kind of. I mean, we give Slukas 10 million. I mean, so I can see him upping what Nunn wants. Now the thing is, Nunn might want to go back to the NBA. He said that he's willing to stay up on Panathinaikos, but the money has to be right. The problem is the NBA. I mean, you get a veteran minimum. It's like five, six, $7 million, and so it's like on that front, is DPG gonna play 5, 6, 7? I get why he did it for Sluka, but it's like for Nunn, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't know how to read it either because he's clearly happy here,
Yeah,
but he also wants to get paid. But he's also not going to play in the NBA. He's going to be a role player.
right.
So I don't know because I mean, there's a plus and a minus to every angle if you're him. But I don't know. I guess it's kind of a similar thing to what I said about Dragowski earlier. Like I hope the fact that they're both enjoying life and we have a positive trajectory and they have a really good role in the team. I hope that would maybe entice both of them to stay for BCFC.
Yeah, exactly. Because the thing is with that too, like in Panathinaikos in Greece, he's a star. It's basically, when Slukas is out, everybody's talking about Nunn.
Yeah.
Like everybody talks about Nunn. He's the face of the team, basically. Like we have Lasor and all these other players. But if we're being honest, people are coming to see Kendrick Nunn. So it's like, he might be able to get more money in the NBA. But let's say if we can maybe, we can offer him a decent amount of money, he's going to be one of the stars of the team. He's going to be playing on a team competing for the EuroLeague title. There's a lot of incentive because, let's say he goes back to the NBA. Let's say he signs for Charlotte, one of the worst teams. I mean, yeah, you're going to get 5, 6 million, whatever, but you're going to be playing like 10 minutes.
It's like a Vezenkov kind of thing.
Yeah. You're just going to be playing like playground minutes. Like,
yeah.
Versus let's say we offer him 4 or 5 million. Okay, let's say we offer him 2 million less. I mean, I'm not trying to count another guy's money, but I mean, if he's making 2 million less, for example, let's say at Panathinaikos, but he has a chance to win titles, he has a chance to be the star of the team. There's incentives if you win the EuroLeague. Like, there's things to weigh, and it's kind of like, what does he want? Each individual has their own. Maybe he's trying to collect cash because he's 28, 29. So maybe he's trying to collect as much cash as he can. I can't blame the guy. But just from a playing standpoint, it's just like Kendrick is Kendrick. Like you're 20, you're in your prime now. And the level that you're at now is a star in the EuroLeague and a role player in the NBA. So it all is just going to come down to what he wants as an individual. I hope he stays. But if he does leave, I think if we get a guy like Micic, I mean, I'd be super, super happy. I'm a huge fan of Micic. Who he grew up a PAO fan too, so that's a plus. But yeah, that's kind of where I see it and kind of where the basketball team is at. We're kind of in this weird period right now where we're in the international break, so we're not going to really have Panathinaikos basketball. I think for like another week or so.
Yeah, we come back on the 29th, and it's against guess who?
Olympiacos.
No, Madrid.
Oh, Madrid. That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So
Yeah. So
tough game right out of the break. It's over there too. So
yeah.
I don't like to chalk anything up to a loss, but that's the hardest game of the season, really. Madrid away it doesn't get much more
Oh, of
difficult
course.
than that. But FS took them to quadruple overtime, so you never know.
That was insane. Yeah, and
Yeah,
before this break, Real Madrid were on a bit of a slump too. Our luck, I mean, they're probably going to suddenly pick up form right when they're back with us.
yeah.
But I mean, anything's for the taking. That's basketball, but that's looking like it's going to be hard. We need to finish off the season. I think we have like what 9 games or 8 games. We've got to go at least I think 4-4 at least
In the
to make.
EuroLeague now we have I think 7.
Oh, is it 7? Okay.
I think it's 7. I think we put the poll out when there were 8 games left, and we played 1 game since then. So I think it should be 7. But
We got the Fenner win, which is huge. The rest are going to be
yes,
away games where we kind of struggle. We're going to have to win at least half those away games.
I think we said we have to go at least 4-4, and we went 1-0 so far. So good start, good start, but it's going to be difficult because the schedule is not easy. We have Real Madrid, we have Barca,
Yeah.
we have Bologna, which is a big one. Bologna away, which
Yeah.
that's an important one because of seeding
Yep.
purposes. But yeah, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, definitely not going to be easy. We'll watch this space, you guys. We cover the basketball team. Alex, Alki, and I, along with Sturge and all the other guys, we tried our best to watch the basketball games and kind of keep us in the loop a little bit. It's a lot easier for us here in the U.S. now because they have it on ESPN.
That's big. Yeah, that's such a
So
nice
it's
thing.
been absolutely huge. So we've been watching that. We'll be
And it's fun.
supporting.
It's fun to watch the basketball team right now. Like it's just a pleasure to watch them. So if even if I'm gonna plug the basketball team, which is kind of weird, but even if you're not super into basketball, like it is Panathinaikos, and they're playing very well, and they're a serious contender for Final Four. So
Right.
even if it's not your cup of tea, give it a shot because it's just fun to watch them right now.
Yeah, it absolutely is. There's a lot of buzz around the team, coaches, players, all the names linked. And the season's still, we haven't even had playoffs yet, so it's only going to get better from here.
Yep.
Definitely, if you are a Panathinaikos fan, but you're not big in basketball, there's a rich history there in the basketball team. This is a great time, especially if you live here in the U.S. and you have ESPN Plus. Get on that. Get on that. It's really, really fun, entertaining basketball. I personally have been watching more EuroLeague than I've been watching NBA this year, just because it's fun basketball to watch. But I mean, I'd say that's pretty much all we've got for this episode. Did you want to plug anything?
I will say I'll plug the female basketball team because they did exactly what the male basketball team did not do. They won the Greek Cup, so
Yeah,
they're
there you
back-to-back
go.
champions. Good for them. Congrats to them. So that's it. I wanted to ask you one more thing, Adoni, actually, about I'm gonna jump back to the FC real quick. About the rumors of Terim
Oh,
leaving. We
right.
didn't touch about that, and it's just rumors, so I don't want to put too much emphasis on it. But it is swirling around, and this was before today's game, just to be clear.
Right.
But yeah, what do you make of that? And do you have any opinions on that?
I think it's 100% Burdes. I think this is just because guess where it comes from? NOC.gr. Like, you know what I mean? Like perfectly, just like before the game against them, they threw out some stupid hit piece about Brignoli being linked. It's Vlakias. They're just making it up. I think to try to cause some type of spur within the team. The vibe. I obviously don't know Terim personally, but the vibe that he gives me is he's a proud guy that when he sets out a goal, he's gonna try his best to reach the goal. He's not gonna quit. So him just leaving in June, that just doesn't make sense. To go to I think some Arabian team or something they were linked to, it doesn't
Yep.
make any sense. And why sign guys like Maximovic who are going to come in the summer, try so hard for that, only to just leave and to continuously talk about Panathinaikos needing to win titles and titles and titles again. Why say all that just to leave in June and then you look bad? Imagine he leaves with his hands in his pockets. We don't win anything. Terim doesn't seem like he's the type of guy to BS himself like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the only way I see him leaving is if we fire him, really.
Yeah. Well said. I 100% agree. And like you said, the source, you got to look at the source. First of all, don't believe everything you read about in Greek media because a lot of it is burdes. It's a lot of clickbait. It's a lot of burdes. So whether it's coming from an AEK source or not, just be careful because there's so much clickbait in Greek media, and Greek reporting is
Yep.
not good. It's not good. So that's just a rule of thumb in my opinion. But like you said, look at the facts. He signs a bunch of his own guys in the winter.
Yeah.
That to me says he's looking for the future. Alafouzos wouldn't open up the wallet to him if he was going to fire him or if he didn't see a future with him past this season. So you have that. Terim's talking about after May. In the press conference after Lamia, Terim himself is talking about, there's basically alluding to there's going to be changes after May. I don't think he's alluding to himself leaving, by the way.
Right.
I think he's alluding to what changes he will be making after May. So
Right.
all these facts, and like you said, if you just look at the guy talk, especially again the Terim doc, it gives you a good insight into what kind of person he is and what his objectives are and what he's looking to get himself out of his coaching experiences. And none of these things that we talked about point to anything like him leaving on his own on his own accord. So I do think it's Bordes, like you said. I'm personally of the opinion that I think he's going to stay no matter the outcome of this season. Whether we win the double or we win one of the two or we win none, I think he has reason to stay no matter what. That's just my personal opinion. I think he's a very driven person. He's a winner. He wants to win, and just winning for say the cup, yeah, he could leave and he could leave at the end of June and say, I won something with Panathinaikos, I conquered Greece or whatever bullshit he wants to say. But even that is not enough in my reading of him as a person. He wants to get more. Even if he wins the double, I think he'll want to prove that he could have success in Europe too. I'm not saying he's going to win the Champions League or Europa, but I think he would want to prove that yes, I could have a good run with this team even in Europe. I've conquered Greece with Panathinaikos. I could, put Panathinaikos back on the European map too. I think he just has an objective based on however this season plays out.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we said like, back to that bull to that freaking rumor. NOC GR, right? They're sick. Like, yes, remember back with Brignoni, they're like, Panathinaikos is making up these rumors to throw us off. And look what happened. Brignoni has been like, I don't know, it was a week or two ago, linked that he's in like serious talks with AEK. So it's like it's such a can of worms, like you said.
They were doing the same. They were doing the same thing, by the way. With not, we don't have to talk about Ajax too much, but they were doing the same thing. Budovich with the player that they signed from Dinamo Zagreb. They signed
Right.
Ljubičić from Dinamo Zagreb, who, by the way, I follow Croatian pages on Twitter, so I get the other side of the story. The Croatian
Right.
pages were reporting that Ajax and Dinamo were talking since December for this player. Meanwhile, the Ajax pages are denying any contacts with the club, obviously because what went down in August.
In
So
August.
it's all Burdes, but this is not an AEK podcast.
This is not an Ike podcast, but we had to bring that up. Yeah, that was actually a good point. I couldn't believe it. I saw it yesterday and I laughed. I'm like, me and you, Alex, we're the two. We're like, no, this is not. This is
No,
Bordes.
no,
I'm not gonna sit here and say I know Terim, but that documentary gave me a good insight into his personality, and he does not seem. He's an old school winner. He's not gonna. I can't see him leaving without completing his project. Without
the
completing
guy has a huge ego. The guy has a huge
yeah.
ego, and I can't imagine how bad it would feel if he left Panathinaikos without a title and without
Right.
proving himself. He did that with Milan. I think Milan is basically the only place he left and it was like a failure, even though he was actually doing pretty well. He
Yeah.
left basically because of a clash of heads, but he left Milan without a title. And just based on the ego that we're, led to believe he has, I can't imagine how bad that felt for him personally. And I'm
Right.
not comparing, Panathinaikos to Milan, but I think he would feel equally as bad if he left Panathinaikos without a title and without proving that, he conquered Greece with Panathinaikos, whatever you want to say.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So that's our 2 cents on that. But I think that's all I have.
Right. Same here. Same here. A good chat. This was a pretty interesting day with that advancement in the Greek Cup final.
It was
Uh,
nice that we did it right after the game because we were a little heated, and
yeah.
we're happy with the result, but stuff didn't go 100% well or as planned. But at the end of the day, the result is hugely important, and we're in the cup final, so I
Yeah.
guess that's all you could ask for, and we're
Yeah.
playing for a trophy. I think May 18.
Yep. Yeah, we're playing for a trophy. We're still in it in the league. We're in the final. Things are looking pretty good right now at the moment for Panathinaikos FC. Hoping things continue to get better for the basketball side. But this was a great episode, Alex. Glad me and you were able to come together a few hours after that cup win and chat about Panathinaikos. Next time it's going to be the Australians who are going to talk about the weekend game. And we will see you guys in about 2 weeks or so when the Americans host it again. Take care.
Θα τα πούμε.